Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. A welcome Libations Friday, loosey-goosey edition of the program from the homestead today. Me and Tom at his house, me at my house. It'd be pretty funny if Tom were here at my house, just sitting right next to me, and we were both trying to squeeze in on camera for the folks watching on Warchant TV, but also be uncomfortable. So we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that at all. But we are talking sports with you, and that's a good thing. And oh, by the way, as we start the day today, this a Libations Friday, a welcome Libations Friday. As I said, I feel like this week's been long for all of us. You out there, I think you've had a long week. I can tell. We're kind of just we just need a respite for a moment. But you do realize that as we take the respite after today's show, it's 99 days. Tom, we're under 100 days until the start of college football, and we have plowed through that 100-day barrier yesterday. Like, normally, oddly, the countdown is a countdown to get to – yes, well done there. Hello, Richard Simmons. I see you. So normally the countdown is like, oh, man, I can't wait till we're like 100 days away. We can finally tell everybody we're 100 days away. We kind of didn't even think about it. We've been so busy. We've been so busy with the transfer portal and the future acquisition of great assets like Keon Coleman. We've been, time and again waiting for answers about roster retention and whether or not some big players were staying or going, or how this team was going to be made up. Bottom line is, next thing you knew, we woke up, we had 99 days until college football starts. And this is a season that when it starts will be met with the kind of anticipation 2012 had for all of us as Florida State fans, 2013 did, 2014 did. It's one of those kinds of seasons. I don't think you can argue that it's not. And in some ways, it's more exciting. So, for example, if I were to tell you this to me is a more exciting season than what I was thinking about going into 2014, maybe that's revisionist history. I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to the tapes. But I feel like it is because you had already climbed the mountaintop in 2013 and won the national championship and dominated college football. It couldn't get better than going out to Pasadena, go into the Rose Bowl, watching this team cash it in, having to do it in dramatic fashion. Once you finally did accomplish it, only added to your zeal for what the season was, and in some ways made that year even better. Could have done without the near heart attack that we had out there in California, but nonetheless, they got that win done. 2014, you felt like you were protecting something, and I know teams and coaches like to say to people, we're not protecting anything. We're going to get it again. We're going to go dominate again. People have to come get us. We don't have to protect anything. We just got to go out there and continue. It's hard. It's not true, really. It's just not true. You are protecting something because you have it. You now have it. When you don't, you're yearning for it. You're hungry. You're striving. You're building towards something. And I always think that journey, although cliche, and coaches love to talk about the journey, the truth is, as fans, players, coaches, I think collectively, it is better as you continue to build towards something. Now, listen, if you're good enough to retain said title the way the Lightning did, and you go to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, well, that's cool too. Nobody's complaining about that. But I think the trek to the top is one that bonds people more than most things do in the world of sports. I ran into somebody last night. It was my son's jamboree, Tom. Leon played over there at Gene Cox Stadium along with Childs and Wakulla. And anyhow, I ran into somebody during the break in between games. You play a half and then somebody else plays a half. Well, Christy and I, my wife and I left and went and had dinner. Ran into a couple people that listened to the show, and we were talking about the season. And it just made me realize just how excited everybody is. We were talking about the show from that day and really this whole week's worth of shows that we've been talking about what's going on with Florida State and the ACC. So that's the added backdrop. Not only do you have the season coming up that we're so excited about, not only do you have a really good team that got better this week. Team got better this week, folks, with Keon Coleman committing to Florida State. So your team just got better, and they weren't even on the practice field, which is really cool. But not only did that happen, you got the announcement for the 7:30 kickoff primetime ABC, not shocking at all. But all these good things, for the most part, happened. And then you have all this drama regarding the conference, which is also something that fuels and is fodder for talk between you and me and every Florida State fan out there.
Yeah, you've got the now and you've got the long-term future. Both of them are very compelling. I would agree with you if you're looking at, 2013 versus 2014. 2014 was a year about results because you had already gotten the ultimate results. So it was just about winning the games. It was also, remember that trip out to Arlington, Dallas, was kind of like a coronation. It was the after party, it felt like, for the Knoll fans.
I forgot about that. You're right.
And it felt that way for the first half of that game. And then, that team did what that team did, which is make every game close. And so you thought, all right, we're not wired exactly the same, but it's okay. They're going to fix those white gold helmets. They're going to get the gold numbers away. And then it was just week after week after week that you were on the edge of your seat. But that run up to that season was not even close to the same. It wasn't. And I can speak with a little bit more authority on this situation as an undergrad during the lost decade. When it was the 90s and it was the height of our power, you were there for all of that in your late teens and throughout your 20s. And it just was, this is who we are. This is who we are. Well, even though I grew up as an Knoll fan in that time, I was in elementary school. When I finally got to go to this college, we never beat a rival at home in my 4 years here at Florida State. That's how bad it was. Yeah. Our best wins were over Clemson and Virginia Tech in my 4 years as a student, and neither of those two teams were ranked. So it was lean times. So when we were on the rise, 2010 is one of my top 3-4 favorite seasons of all time because it was like that. It was about the journey. This past season is now amongst those because it was discovery. Oh, yeah. It's the discovery is the better part of the journey. I'm sure Georgia fans would agree. We have some of them in the chat, but I'm sure Georgia fans would agree that 2 years ago, that title was far more special because of the drought than this past season's title. It's not that you would turn away a championship, but it's just different. And I will say also, if you like symmetry, of course, the threes, years ending in 3, have been good to us. 93, 2013, it is 2023. And one of the semifinal games, one of the semis, man, this year in the college football playoff is the Rose Bowl. Florida State could be back in LA at the end of this season. Because if they're a 3 seed, let's just say, we know the nation doesn't love us. If they're a 3 seed and let's say a team from the Big Ten is a 2 seed, we're not playing in the Sugar Bowl. We're going to go all the way out to the West Coast for a third time and play in that venue.
It's funny when you talk about it. I remember for a very long time, and I think about it now with the possibility, who knows, if Florida State goes back to the college football playoff, ends up somehow in the Rose Bowl again. I would tell you as a kid and even later on, many years later, as I really kind of realized the lot, that's a bad way of describing it, but the lot that Florida State found themselves in, really any Southern team kind of found their position. It was one that never was going to allow you to play in the Rose Bowl. There would be no reason really to ever play in the Rose Bowl. And then it became a thing where maybe you had an outside chance when it was in the rotation that you happened to have a great year right when it was in the rotation for the title game. But a lot of things had to align, and it just seemed so unlikely. And because I've been to every Florida State national championship game, wins and losses alike, I never thought we would go there. So that was really the icing on the cake. And then to go out there twice, I know the second time was disappointing, but to go back out there was a thrill for me. And yeah, I guess I kind of resigned myself after those 2 appearances that we would probably never go back out there again. And here you're giving me this kind of hope on a Friday. That's a good kind of hope right there, Tom Lang.
It is. And if, again, symmetry, I'm not saying that Florida State is destined to go to the college football playoff this year. I'm not that silly. However, in our history, we went to the first BCS championship game. We were in the last BCS championship.
Correct.
We were in the first year of the college football playoff. This is the last year of the 4-team college football playoff. We just seem to have a knack for these things. It's like the Tampa Bay Lightning when the NHL changes networks. The Lightning were the final game on ABC. They were the final game on NBC. So when this contract ends with TNT, I'm sure we'll be in the Stanley Cup Finals and hoisting the trophy.
Well, now that we got our necessary rest and let others participate,
I don't believe in destiny, but it's written in the stars. There you go.
Well, it's not crazy. It's another moment where we're having a conversation about why it's not crazy to think that Florida State could could very well make the college football playoff. I mentioned yesterday on the show that I was on another show, and I was thinking about that. There was a fill-in host, Dave Schultz, I believe his name was, for the king of college football. And I was on, and he was interesting. I mean, he's a Syracuse grad, and we were just kind of talking about Florida State, and you could tell he was coming at it from a completely different perspective about, what's reasonable for Florida State fans to expect this year. And, Jeff, I've read where some people think they could be a college football playoff team. That seems awfully ambitious. And, he wasn't saying it as a slight. I think it's just happened so quickly. I really think that the fault lies for people who don't recognize that Florida State is very much a candidate for this year's college football playoff. I mean, there's probably 8 teams in any given year, 6 to 8 teams, depending on the season, that you would say somebody is a candidate. And every now and then you get something that is very necessary for college football to thrive, and that is somebody come out of nowhere like TCU a year ago. I mean, TCU wasn't picked to finish in the top 5 of the Big 12, and there they were playing for a national championship, having won in the semis. So that was good for college football. I think it gave other people hope. Not that Florida State needs that. I'm just pointing it out. But I'd say that, if you're one of those people who's following college football and you're thinking about big picture, you're thinking about Georgia and you're thinking about Ohio State's receiving core and how they've churned out a good quarterback and good receivers year over year over year, and they're the class of the Big Ten along with now Michigan, who's risen up. And then you're thinking about what USC has become with Caleb Williams, and the proof was in the pudding with a Heisman Trophy and probably the most high-profile offensive coach in the game. In Lincoln Riley. And so you already know about them. And, I don't know. You might think about an Oklahoma. You might think about a couple of other SEC teams like Alabama, obviously, and LSU. But maybe people don't think about Florida State because of how down we really were and how the Jimbo era ended and how those wins didn't come, save for last year. And it's the first time that you re-enter the conversation and people aren't prepared to say, oh, welcome in. Oh, by the way, here's the playoff. I don't think most people believe it happens that way. Most of the time you watch a team building to something and you say, wow, they won 7, then they won 9. They got that quarterback back. Holy moly, they're loaded on the defensive line. Yeah, I could see them winning 11 games this year. That's how that usually works. And we went from winning nothing, looking terrible. Most of the time, we're in the headlines for the wrong reasons, all kinds of problems in terms of the COVID year. And, you had the Wilson situation, complaining about Norvell's email. And, just a lot of people looking at Florida State and then all of a sudden we were good.
Yeah, it's more organic. I was initially, I rebuffed when you said, what this Syracuse guy said. And he sounds very much like a Syracuse grad. I don't know why he would be hosting a college football show if he's a Syracuse grad and does not know about Florida State in the South, but I digress. USC's rise to power had a lot more star power to it. It was Lincoln Riley and an all-world quarterback that everybody knew. So I'm sure it wasn't a stretch last year for this particular individual to say that USC could go immediately to the playoff. Of course, USC didn't. But Florida State's growth relative to a USC or something else like a Georgia the Machine, because they were a top 5 recruiting wonder right out the gates with Kirby Smart. So you could kind of project that a little bit more. We've been a little bit more organic here if you're not dialed into what's going on with the program. Yes, the transfer portal is a story, but these aren't 5-star kids. We're not landing top 3 classes in each recruiting class. Mike Norvell has been here a little while, and he doesn't have the star power of a Lincoln Riley. So you don't think of him as an immediate threat to the balance of power in college football because he hasn't been to the playoff before. So I would see where a casual sports fan from a different time zone would be surprised by Florida State. However, if you're going to be in Atlanta on a college football only show, you probably need to be aware that Florida State is knocking on the door, and we might be kicking it down this year.
Yeah, and I think the thought was sort of a, look, do we realistically expect them to go from winning 10 games this past year, their first winning season in some time, to vaulting themselves into position to make the college football playoff, along with Georgia, Alabama, and, whether you want to say it's Michigan or whomever, Ohio State, whoever else you want to name. I think right now Florida State is not on the tip of the tongue the way those teams are. And I think that's probably, again, Florida State is a huge name in the world of college football. It's just that they haven't reemerged with any consistency. It's 1 year. They had one good year. It happened last year. It was very necessary to create stability, but it is just 1 year. And maybe you're not paying attention to the fact that transfer portal wise, they did it again. They did it again. I mean, this Keon Coleman get is a big get. It's a real big get. And I think that, we'll see. They may end up adding to this group as well. Still probably looking for another safety out there, guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they added one before the fall or when fall gets ready to get started there. I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to bring somebody in. I wouldn't be surprised if they were looking at 2 more players. So we'll see. You don't want to add people just to add them.
Yeah.
And you already did add a safety. I understand that, but he's more of a 2-3 year project right now.
Yeah, I totally agree there. He's got the size that gets fun. He could be one of those hybrid players closer to the line of scrimmage, given that he's well over 6 feet tall, Ashland Barker. But when you're talking about 2 players, do you mean a safety in a different position?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay. All right. Just making sure to clarify there.
Yeah, I think they'd be looking to add a safety and then maybe either a defensive end or a linebacker.
Yep. That checks the box. That makes sense. And that should, based upon the unofficial math that we've all done, Ira had a long story about it a few weeks ago. That should put Florida State right at the 85, unless somebody graduates this, upcoming semester. Is it already done? I'm so out of touch with Florida State. I think we already had graduation a week.
Yeah, I think graduation already happened. I remember there was a day of driving hell.
That's right. That's right. I actually went to go pick up dinner on a Friday early.
Yeah, what is going on here?
Well, they said, good thing you did, because if you got here an hour later, we'd say, no, we'll see you next week. So maybe somebody, jets at that point, and then you could bring in a third player. But I think 2 is the right number. It's just that where I do take offense is we go through this exercise every year and you've already brought it up. You look at the half dozen teams that can compete, or maybe 8 in a given year, but you try and find where is the line of a team with either the schedule strength, it's weak, or the out of conference opportunity early in the season that could catapult them in the conversation later in the year. And the line is typically drawn somewhere between 5 teams, as few as 5, to as many as 8. If you did that exercise anywhere else in the country right now, and you were looking at rosters returning quarterbacks, these other power teams don't have that. Florida State does. We would absolutely be on your short list of teams that could make the playoff. Does that mean that we're a lock to make the playoff? I'm not asking for people around the country to say that. That's crazy. We still have something to prove, a lot to prove. But if you look at Ohio State and Alabama and Clemson and Georgia, they're all breaking in new quarterbacks this year. This is why, relative to the oligarchy that is college football, this is a great year to make a 4-team playoff if you're Florida State. If we had if we had the same team coming back last year, and we didn't know what Alabama was going to be, but they had Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud was there, and Clemson's situation was what it was, and Stetson Bennett was back, I don't know. That's a pretty crowded room that we're trying to get into. This year, you've got kind of an inside track a little bit. So that's what all I'm saying is, if you're in a different part of the country, we should definitely be a part of this segment of who could make the playoff this year.
Well, if you recall, going back to immediately following the national championship game, the following week or thereabouts, typically you have the Schleybaugh and other pieces that come out. That was ESPN. The Athletic did one. I think the Ringer did one. CBS Sports did one. Collectively, we put them all together, and we start looking at the way too early top 25 for next year. It pretty much consensus, and I get it, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. Georgia was everybody's number 1, even though they're going to be breaking in a new quarterback. But so you had Georgia, you had Ohio State on that list, again, because of the receiving core, and really doesn't seem to matter who they roll out there at quarterback. They have a good one every year with that group. So credit to what they've done up there. Michigan was in that ranking. Alabama is always going to be somewhere in there at 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, worst case scenario. But we were in Schleybaug's top 4. We were number 4 on his list. And I looked around and kind of pieced together some others before today's show. And, Tom, you look at it, there's a few Penn States out there. There's plenty of USCs out there. There's some LSUs out there. And then from there, you kind of get into I don't know, is Oregon with Bo Nix coming? Is that going to happen? Is LSU? Is there another team outside of this? Does Tennessee keep it rolling?
There's a lot of thought that system with this new kid who's coming in is going to be just as fierce offensively.
Yeah. So does Tennessee keep it rolling? They could be a team that you'd put out there. I think if you're a college football fan, you'd love 11 or 12 teams to be on this list. So if you're going to include Tennessee, then I'm going to include Washington because lest we forget, Washington went 11-2 last year, by the way. And they have their all-world quarterback coming back and a bunch of star-studded receivers.
Yep.
I don't know. Would you put TCU back in that list? I mean, so I don't think so either. But I think you can get to like 11.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And with our opportunity with LSU, you win that first game of the season, you jump to the front of the line, and you can absorb. You will get the SEC treatment if you beat LSU to start the year. You will get the SEC treatment where one loss, no big deal. But you got to win that game in order to get the SEC treatment from the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yeah, he went 2-0 against the SEC last year.
Yep.
And 3-0 if you're going to count Oklahoma, soon to be SEC. And then, of course, you get Florida again this year, and we like our chances in that game right now as we sit here today on May the 19th. But we also, it's a coin flip game with LSU. I know we're 99 days. So I started the show with we're 99 days away from the start of college football, and that's awesome. And it is awesome. I'll let that kick around for a second. I mean, we're less than 100 days. But that's 3 months, guys. We're playing college football in 3 months. Let's go. All right. So that said, I don't have a feel, and I want a feel. I want my gut to say, here's the deal, man. Now, I had it wrong last year, and I was really happy to be wrong. I thought LSU would beat Florida State last year. I did not project Jordan Travis's huge leap forward, his pre-snap in particular. They threw the kitchen sink at him. Halfway through that game, I was texting you from the press box. Holy moly, they're throwing everything at this kid, and he is cool, calm, and collected. He knows what's coming before it happens. If this is the Jordan Travis we're going to get this year, Katie bar the door, they could win a lot of games. We got all excited. That in that moment, I had to see it. I was one of those a-holes who needed to see it to believe it. There were some people who were, I knew it. Okay, great. Good for you. I didn't. I knew some other things, but I didn't know that, and I got it wrong. Well, now I'm out in front of the bus here, baby. I'm all on. Let's go. That kid's great. They're loaded. They're balanced. They can keep defenses on the field because of the diversity of personnel. We talk about it every day. I think this offense is going to be one of the 3 or 4 most explosive offenses in the country in terms of points and yards and all these sorts of things. They can beat you any way that you want to play it. I'm all in. I'm just waiting to see if we have a championship defense. Do you have a defense in the modern game that is very different than the way it used to be? It's not defined by giving up 10 points or 7 points or 14 points. Can you hold everybody you play to 24 points or less just about? Because if you can, this offense is always going to score more than that, and you're going to win.
Yeah, 24 is a great number to have a goal for. I'm sure that they want to shoot for 17 or 14.
Well, they can shoot for that. I want 24. I mean, that would be great if I just don't think they're going to be good enough in the secondary.
Yeah, percentage chance we go undefeated if we give up 24 points or fewer in every one of our 12 games.
Damn high. 80?
85?
80, I said 80%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could lose a shootout. Certainly. You could lose a defensive-minded game. I mean,
or you could have a weather game like Ohio State did last year. Was that Northwestern? I forget.
Oh, it's crazy, right? It came down to the wire, and yeah, that was just
you can see we're in Pitt. It's just, it's the heavens open up, and it's a slop fest, and it's 21-20, in the final quarter or something.
Yeah, no, games like that are kind of hard to predict as we sit here now, and so there's usually one that comes up, or you just have an off day on offense, and the next thing you know, you're holding on for dear life. But I think you could project around 80% chance that they would go 12-0 in the regular season. If they give up 24 points or less in every game they play this year, that's 24 points or less to LSU. That's 24 points less on the road against Clemson. That's 24 points or less in the ACC. Well, I didn't say the ACC championship game, but I mean, against Florida on the road, against Miami here, against whomever. Yeah,
certainly the Miami game. I mean, my God, 24 points. I think we'd be calling for a defensive coordinator's head. Goodness gracious.
It's a pressure-packed year for this defense. They got to take a big step forward because I think we just know the offense will. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
A cup of joe, Java, brew, go-go beans, brain water, liquid lightning, wakey juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name, because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Get to grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
Services, conferences to call away. 222-7722. Heating and cooling is the job we do. Parker Services, conferences to call away.
Invest in a Peak Performance membership and you'll buy peace of mind in knowing that you're extending the life of your system and probably saving money on your power bill too. The program includes comprehensive tune-ups that keep your system running at its maximum efficiency. And Peak Performance members get many benefits, including priority service. Members jump to the front of the line when their comfort system fails. And a 15% discount on all parts. The Peak Performance membership pays for itself over and over again. Call today and have peace of mind. Florida license number CMC 050334.
Parker Services, conferences to call away. Parker Services, conferences to call away.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
You know, it's funny. I saw there are articles that have come out in the last couple of days with all of the momentum that we were just referencing a moment ago for this Florida State football program. And what people are seeking to do now is going back and talking about the comments that were made about Mike Norvell and what he was as a coach, or was he in over his head? And then, you know, if you go, let's say it's an article written by a reputable site, okay, Tom, and you see the link on Twitter. All you got to do to gauge the fear of our rivals is look how quickly the comments underneath the link to the article become, he's been a loser. He had back-to-back-to-back terrible seasons. Like, they exaggerate the number of bad seasons. They somehow link Florida State's awful play at the end of Jimbo Fisher's time and the 2 years with Willie to Mike and say, well, Florida State hasn't been relevant in 5 years. They've had one winning season in that time. How is Mike? Are we supposed to apologize for not falling at the feet of Mike Norvell? It's awesome. It's petty. It's let me ask you this question. A mutual friend of ours admitted to me earlier this week. We were talking, and I said to him, I'm still feeling good about Keon Coleman. Do you? And he said, yeah, I do. I still feel really good. I feel good enough that I saved a tweet from another program to go back so I could be petty. And I said, okay. And I started thinking about that. I'm 51 years old, and I have saved right now 9 different recent takes from different sites, from writers and talking heads on those sites regarding Mike Norvell and his prowess as a coach. I don't rep Mike Norvell. He doesn't need me to. The man's a football coach who's paid extremely, extremely well.
Yep.
But I don't suffer fools. And one of the things that we talked about, even in the 5-7 campaign, was that while mistakes have been made, I think Mike Norvell is a good football coach. He may be a good football coach who ends up getting fired. And there were retorts to that. There were people who were like, well, that doesn't happen. I'm like, well, yes, it does all the time. And there are lots of instances in which that's proven out. But moreover, you just don't want to believe it because you've decided he's not. So if you have to go back and repair a narrative or apologize or say I was wrong, it's too much for you. We get a lot wrong in sports. Everybody does. It's a fluid deal. When we talk about, and that's something that you learn over time, when we talk about coaches or quarterbacks, you're probably most wrong about those two things in the history of sport than anything else. Because quarterbacks, a lot of times, it's where they go. It's the coaching staff they're with. It's the players around them. Football, as we say, is the ultimate team game. Now, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion about a quarterback. You should. It's what makes sports fun. I've got an opinion about every college quarterback that comes out. So do you. And share it. Just do so with the knowledge you're going to be right about a couple of them and you're going to be really wrong about a couple of them. Because not even the GMs know. If they did, they'd never get fired.
Yeah, and sports wagering would be the easiest thing in the world. They wouldn't have it because you'd always win. And a great example of a quarterback in a situation is the one that we've got right here.
Yeah.
If it's not for Mike Norvell or Kenny Dillingham or because Kenny played a big part in this for Jordan's development from the darkest days to putting him on a path. You got to give Kenny credit for that. Jordan Travis is a name that we don't talk about ever. Ever. We don't know about him. He doesn't exist in this sphere of the conversation. But because he came to Florida State for Willie, but then the transition happens and these two gentlemen arrive in his life at that point in time, we now know who Jordan Travis is, and so do futures bettors for the Heisman. I mean, that's the crazy thing about you just need a break. That's why we love sports, because it's so easy to tie to life. Anybody who's ever made it across the board,
got a break. Even
the Silver Spooners, because they were born into it. That's the break that they caught, was birth. Somebody always catches a break. Matt Millar gave me mine. Obviously, you were a part of that as we transitioned from the AM dial to the FM dial. I got the second break. But the first break was Matt Millar picked up the phone when I wanted to do a Q&A for a college project at Dr. Rainey's Mass Media Sports and Society class. He answered the questions, and he said, show me the paper. That was my break. That Jordan Travis had his too. It was that Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham resonated with him when he thought about quitting the game. He didn't want to play anymore. And he stuck it out because of the message that he heard. And now look at him. That's why it's unpredictable, though. By the same token, it's what you're talking about. It's why it's unpredictable for a coach. Sometimes a coach is good, but he needs a really good player, and they end up winning a draft lottery in the NBA. Like Greg Popovich is now not retiring magically because they have the number 1 overall pick. He might add another wing to his legacy because this might be the kickstart of something for the San Antonio Spurs. Tom Brady arrives because of an injury to Drew Bledsoe. How much are we talking about Bill Belichick as the greatest coach in NFL history? We might talk about him as a great coach, but is he the greatest in the history of the NFL without Tom Brady arriving through Drew Bledsoe's injury? No.
It's the same thing with Bill Walsh and Joe Montana and Steve Young. I mean, Bill Walsh is defined, rightfully so, by football coaches over the ages as a genius. He invented an entire offense that we still use elements of to this day. There's no denying his genius. Help that Jerry Rice and Joe Montana ran it.
Yeah, exactly. like Belichick might be Bill Parcells or Joe Gibbs, but he wouldn't be Bill Belichick without this guy. Yeah. And it was total happenstance. Did he draft him? Yeah. Like at the end of the draft when he's already in his car driving home, he's like, yeah, let's take that guy. That's fine.
6th round, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's fickle, and you just need that one bounce to go your way or that one decision to be made, and it changes your fortune forever.
And specifically to Norvell and our dumbass rivals, you just barely need to do a little bit of work here. So my man wins and wins big at Memphis, okay? So you've got some coaching acumen stuff there that you can go and look at and see, okay, successes. But then, from there, if you'd like, you cannot then hold season 1 of a COVID year on the heels of being the 3rd head coach in 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've come in now at the end of Jimbo's nightmare where Jimbo Fisher, who's won a national championship, has a losing season. He leaves with a losing season. Odell ends up having those wins at the end of the year that gets us to 7-6, all right? But Jimbo left 5-6, right? So that's it. That's a losing season for him. You bring in Willie. It doesn't work. Willie makes some mistakes that I didn't see coming. It's unfortunate. Don't need to relitigate that, but it was a disaster. So you have further disorganization, no resolution to the cultural problems that Jimbo left Willie. They just carry over for another 2 years. So now we got 3 years of a bad locker room and no wins. And now we have a pandemic, which is not the same for everybody who took new jobs at their new locations. Those situations are all different. What rivals will do in order to discredit Mike Norvell is lump him in as having the same situation that they had at Arkansas or Michigan State or anybody that had success in the COVID campaign, right? From there, the 5-7 year, you're right if you want to raise an eyebrow and ask serious questions about Mike after the Jacksonville State loss. You should. There are 2 things that I would say stand out as really ugly on Mike Norvell's resume. There's a lot of good things too, and there's about to be a lot more good things, okay? But if we're looking big picture, totality, having a real conversation about Mike, you would say it is pretty unforgivable what happened in the Jacksonville State game. Like to this day, if you're still pissed about that, yeah, me too. Me too. I'm still pissed about it. It's humiliating. It should have never happened. It's the hallmark of bad coaching. It's the kind of stuff you see other teams do and go, oh my God, I'd think about firing him. Admittedly, that's like, it was that bad. All right. And the only other thing that I'd point to is the assessment of the quarterback situation and bringing in a one-footed quarterback and seeing the evidence that he's not right and still insisting on starting him and allowing for that to happen. Like that, I get you take a flyer on a kid that was a Heisman candidate at UCF. From a distance, you say, okay, if he can get right, that's a kid who's proven it on the field that he can play. Agreed. No problem with taking the flyer. But then he gets here, and man, you and I watched it. Everybody did. I know he had one 12-play series against Notre Dame that made you believe in a game, but he never looked good in practice, not from day one ever.
Correct.
Kinsey Milton never looked good. His arm was pathetic. He couldn't move. He had that one little moment in time where the competitor in him came out and he made a few throws in the Notre Dame game. But then there was overwhelming evidence he couldn't play in the other games. And yet you still did that. The Wake Forest game ends up happening, Tom.
Buddy.
So those two moments, ugly as it gets, blights on a resume, would make you really question the acumen. But really, you cannot group all that other stuff. You can just grab those two things, because from there, as he immature at times, as he grows as a coach, I think so. I see a couple of moments like that. But his players love him. They play hard for him. They believe in the messaging, and this program continues to get better by the day. They go out and win 10 games last year. The offense is always prepared. The game plans are always good. Now they're getting the players to go execute and win some games. I really just don't see them going backwards anytime soon. I think the next assessment, real assessment of Mike, is going to be not can he coach, is he the right guy? I think now we're all at a place, and if our rivals were being truthful, they would admit, yeah, he's doing a good job. He's begrudgingly, I got to tell you, he's doing a good job. That's what they would say if they were being honest. Okay, we've gone from that to, okay, he's a good football coach. Can he be great? Can he be great? Can he make the tough decisions with expectations that are going to be sky high from this point forward? They ain't going backwards, guys. They won 10 games last year. They're going to win 10 games again this year. Worst case scenario, 9. 5 and 7 is in the rear view. That's not happening anytime soon. So when you get to this level, and you know this, Tom, and I do this a lot, I like to remind people, when we get to 10-win type teams, all that's left is to win it.
Yeah.
So can you go from there to there, way up there? Not everybody can, and we'll see. That will be the next referendum.
Yeah, there are a couple of decisions you can make along the way, but at some point, the players need to put you over the top as well. That happened with Jimbo. Nobody would classify him as a great coach, but he did produce 29 straight through a lot of awesome jobs behind the scenes, recruiting-wise. Then obviously the offense, he found the right guy to run and think like he does. So you get full credit for that. But you could be a good coach and win a title. Great coaches are consistently in the conversation over and over. Dabo, you have to give it to him, is a great coach at the NCAA level. He is. They have been in the playoffs seemingly every year since it started in 2014. So it's that consistency that rewards you with the title. We can't know if Mike Norvell is going to be a great coach this year, but what I can know, and I've got more gripes with him than you do, but I think he gets the overwhelming amount of it right, the overwhelming amount of what it takes correct. The inconsistencies on fourth down, I want to see that now that you've got players. The inconsistencies in the decision-making and what you do. I'm not talking about kick versus don't kick. I'm talking about when you decide to go for it.
Yeah. No, I got it.
So that's something that was alarming to me when we were on the way up. But you could say incomplete grade, Tom, because we're not good enough. And he knows that.
Yeah.
And so he's coaching towards that. Okay, well, now we are good enough. Does your decision-making change at that pinch point? Because that can be something that changes the flow of everything in terms of the momentum of the game, field position, and all that kind of stuff. And then goal line, I want to see some closure there. If we were much better on the freaking goal line last year against LSU, Fabian Lovett never gets hurt. And maybe, just maybe, in those 3 games that you lost to ranked opponents, you win 1 or 2 of them because Fabian Lovett is not hurt. So it's these little things that I want to see, because once you're good enough, it gets we're saying the same thing about, instead of great, I'm saying details. The details are what puts you over the top.
Yeah, and that's where we're at now in terms of judgment. The referendum changes. It's not whether or not you're good enough, the right guy, can you coach? No, that's all gone. That's all gone.
It's good. It's a settled issue.
Yeah, can you be great? That's all I need to see now. Can you get us to the next level? And obviously, until you do, there will be a debate about that amongst the fan base and everybody else who watches college football. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hey Tallahassee, it's Sarah with Seminole Auto Glass. You're probably driving right now, which means you're surrounded by glass. Did you know that each piece is made differently? Your windshield is 2 sheets of glass with a thin plastic in between. This allows it to take an impact without going all the way through. Side and back glasses are typically tempered. This strengthening process is what allows them to be shattered in the event of emergency. Regardless of the glass or how it breaks, we can help. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass, proudly serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. Better call Seminole.
My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space.
Well,
you got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinking. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Piggyback off that real quick in a short segment before we get into hour number 2 on a Libations Friday. I think we were just talking about judging Mike, and it's funny to hear the fear, see the fear on social media that our rivals have right now, knowing that Florida State has taken a huge step forward. Credit to a couple of Miami guys yesterday or this week when Mike Norvell pulled Keon Coleman. You had some people out there like, hey, Manny, or hey, Mario. I said Manny. I'm thinking of DS. Yeah. Hey, Mario. They just steady adding really good players up there in Tallahassee. What is it you say you do here? Like they're starting to get a little frustrated. They're in a similar boat that Florida State fans were in when Mike had that terrible season where everybody's like, I don't know, I can't blame you. Soon enough, we'll know a little bit more. But I would like to see some signs of life. That's where Miami's at right now.
I would say the good news for Miami is that they got the quarterback back who hates playing at home. That's the really good news. That kid, he might like road games more than home games because they're a real college football atmosphere. But at least you got that kid there to play in what is tantamount to an NFL preseason Week 3 game. In terms of
the problem is Tyler Van Dyke can be a good player, and they did change their offensive coordinator. And now I'm nervous that they'll go ahead and rekindle some of the magic we saw from 2 years ago with him. I wish he had moved on out of pure frustration of playing before nobody and a bunch of losses mounting and constantly being put in bad positions by his coordinator. I wish he had decided it was enough to move it on down the road, because I actually think he's pretty good. Yes, or at least he can be.
Oh, that potential is definitely there. I would have liked to have seen him move to a weird school that, maybe was on the brink of winning, the Pac-12 or something, and what that kid would do in a fresh setting, or just follow Rhett Lashley and kick ass, because those two saw the world the same way when it comes to between the sidelines. Man,
I really wanted him to transfer to Houston. I feel like that people go to Houston when they want to not matter at all, but feel like they do. Like that's like you go to Houston and everybody goes, oh, Houston, that's, that program. And then we never really, it's just Houston. You're like, they're not doing anything.
Fortunately, the opposite was true for a basketball transfer from Houston to us. But I agree. It felt like, SMU, Houston, somewhere, just go dominate out there. I got to be honest. I don't know what they have from a skill position standpoint anymore. Will Mallory's finally gone, isn't he? He's got to be 85. He had to have aged out.
Yeah, and he wasn't great.
They're good at running back. Is their offensive line any good? We'll find out because we're going to put him to the test.
The problem is the problem they have is that the weakest unit on the field is their secondary. They can't cover anybody, and they have to play us. that is a problem. I mean,
it is a problem that we are on the schedule for them this year. Yes.
I mean, yeah, this is a bad year to have a really weak secondary and have to face Florida State. That's a tough go.
It's a bad year to have a bad anything on defensive phase. If you've got a bad defensive front, that's your ass. If you got bad linebackers, you're screwed. If you got a bad secondary, oh well. I mean, that's where we are.
It's a beautiful thing. I like sitting back and doing pregame shows with you, my friend, talking about in which capacity do we want to exploit this massive advantage. It's like, how do we want to go about destroying this opponent? Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Tires remix, y'all. Fulfill auto repair and tires. Automotive service, there is no one finer. Tires and struts and racks and pinions. ASE certified technicians. 12-month, 12K guarantee. Same-day service usually. Engine rebuilds done complete. Brakes and shots, that's no small feat. Keep your AC blowing cool. CV joints emissions too. Open weekdays till 6 at night. Give them a chance, they'll treat you right. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires. 2170 Crawfordville Highway, Crawfordville, Florida.
Hey, this is your stomach speaking. It's time to eat again. We met deadlines and closed out the workday like a boss. The last thing you want to do is cook dinner. Even worse, pick up any fast food garbage. We need something good, something local. We need foodiestakeout.com. An all-star lineup of local spots like Smitty's Tap House, El Jalisco, Terry's Cafe, Hangar 38, Metro Deli, and more. It's so easy. Just choose pickup or delivery, and let's eat the good stuff. I'm growling already. Visit foodiestakeout.com.
Cannonball! When I get home from work, I'm ready to relax. So I call Swain Pools and Spas and feel like pool in the back. I call Swain Pools and Spas. Now I'm soaking up the fun when I want to.
It's springtime in Tallahassee, and there's nothing better than soaking it all up in your very own hot tub from Swain Pools and Spas. Swain Pools and Spas is the home for Caldera and free flow spas in North Florida, and Swain has the right pricing and tub size options to fit any yard and any budget with quick and easy financing options. Swain even has hot tubs that can plug right into your existing electrical outlets, so there's no additional installs needed. Visit SwainPools.com. That's SwainPools.com.
And right next to Swain Pools and Spas is Tallahassee Car Care. Stop in today for everything from an oil change and brake repair and tires to alignments and transmission. Big or small, we do it all. It's Tallahassee Car Care, the only repair shop where you can take a dip while we repair your whip. Tallahassee Car Care, right next to Swain Pools and Spas.
Cannonball!
Now that the brutal North Florida and South Georgia winter is over, okay, we had a couple of cold snaps, but still, now is the best time to give your AC system a good cleaning. Dust can build up in your AC system, leading to higher utility bills and poor air quality. That's when it's E&B to the rescue. Our 21-point inspection and tune-up costs only $99 and gets things working their very best. So before the summer hits, get your AC spick and span. Call E&B Heating and Air Conditioning today.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFD, Greta, Tallahassee.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Smooth skin begins with hydrating ingredients. Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion nourishes your skin with all-day hydration for deeply moisturized results that give you confidence like buttery soft shoulders like and visibly smooth skin like. Quench your skin with nourishing moisture from Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion. Try Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash too and get skin your face will envy.
Someone who thought texting was a better idea than stopping for a traffic light slams into your rear bumper. Now your back is injured and you've got to be at work and rehab all without a car. I'm Dana Brooks of Basic Brooks Law Offices, and we hear stories like this every day. You shouldn't pay for someone else's mistake. Call us at 850-777-7777 and we'll make sure you come back stronger.
Discover the taste of Peru at Café de Martín and El Bar, a one-of-a-kind culinary and cocktail concept created by classically trained chef Martín Araujo. Con amor y pasión, with love and passion, Café de Martín is a fine Peruvian dining experience in an approachable, comfortable, cultural-rich space built for creating memories to last a lifetime. Enjoy happy hour daily with a full bar, handcrafted cocktails, beers on draft and bottle, paired with a selection of Peruvian tapas like crispy fried yuca with house-made huancaína sauce, carefully selected charcuterie boards, a selection of fresh ceviches, and so much more. It's Café de Martín and El Bar. Escape to Peru, a country of great culture, beauty, and food right here in the capital city. Café de Martín and El Bar on Capitol Circle Northeast in the Esposito Shopping Center. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Online at cafedemartin.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, Libations Friday. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate you very, very much. I'm Jeff. Tom is on the other side over here at his house. I can see him down below. He'll be popping up any second to say hello. On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. I saw something none of you saw, and it made me laugh. I wondered if anybody could see those little small boxes, Tom. I didn't know. It's just us. We see the people in the green room, right?
That's correct.
Try to make it sound like you're going on to a talk show, like a real one, like Letterman or something like that. So it is. We keep it on down here, and we talk some more. This time about not nearly 5 overtime hockey. Were you up for it?
I stayed up through 1 overtime.
I stayed up through 2 full overtimes and said, peace. I was at this damn jamboree, and we didn't get home until 11:40. 11:40, Tom.
Yeah. I would have waited to put damn somewhere else till, damn 11:40. But so you hate the jamboree is what you're saying.
Hey, if we're gonna get home at 11:40 p.m., yes, I am. I am against the jamboree. I am there. I am supportive of my children. I am rooting for the fine young men of Leon to perform admirably. But if we get home at 11:40, no, that's not what we do here, guys. We got jobs. We get up awfully early. I got a kid who got 5 hours of sleep last night. So here's the thing. That's okay. Got to buck up, soldier. I get it.
Yeah.
He'll be there the next jamboree. I got it. It's fine.
A bad beat on the shot total, right? Because Carolina, I believe, was well under the 32.5 before overtime.
Yes, but we got the win on the under 5.5, and we got the win on under 3.5 goals for Carolina. So easily cut. We got 2 wins there.
I got the East pegged. No idea in the West. I'm not going to touch the West.
I will say, I mean, obviously that game last night, my goodness gracious, you had a couple crossbars, you had a puck slide past the far post. I mean, Carolina could have easily won, just as Florida could have easily won numerous times, and at one point thought they did, only to have it overturned. All of that is true. It doesn't bode well for Carolina that they can't score an even strength goal, and they still haven't. And they played 19 overtimes last night. So at some point, when you've played 6 periods of hockey and you haven't scored an even strength goal, you may get concerned.
I'm just saying, and this is, a lot of you don't care about hockey, but you care about wagering. don't bet against Florida's goalie right now. Bob is in a different place. This guy can be awful or great, and he's in a great place. So I would not bet against Florida. I would not bet for Carolina to hit overs on team totals. I just wouldn't touch it right now.
Well, no, and they got a little unlucky. They hit a post, and then they hit another post, and I was like, oh, this ain't going to be your night when we're out here just clanking posts. So in the overtime. So that's like, you're like, ooh.
Overtime. Yeah, Florida had one call back for interference, which was good. That's a good call.
Yeah.
And then Carolina hit that crossbar pretty square, too.
Oh, buddy, it's as square as it gets. Yeah, there were a couple of moments. But anyhow, that said, I didn't make it through the third. And, they were 12 seconds away or 20 seconds away from a fifth overtime. Maybe Carolina fans were relieved that puck went in the net. I mean, at some point, we got to go to bed. Guys, what are we doing out here 3 o'clock in the morning still playing hockey? This is insane.
No, there's nothing worse than being a fan in the stands for an overtime loss, but I couldn't possibly imagine a 4 overtime loss. Like, if you're going to be a Carolina Hurricanes fan in that building for that long, good God, sir.
It's not just a 4th overtime that you stayed for. You stayed for all of the 4th overtime. They didn't score at the beginning of the 4th overtime. They scored with 12 seconds left or 20 seconds left in the 4th overtime.
So in 2004, I was in Tampa watching the Lightning and the Calgary Flames in Game 5.
Yep.
This felt like it was over at this point, but I watched overtime, and they went about 15 minutes into overtime, which is just such a long time to be in a building with your heart in your throat.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that football can generate something similar to that. I just don't think it can, but because it's one goal, that's all it takes. It's not overtime in football where it's, you could have trade scores in college or in basketball. It's overtime. You're going to make a lot of buckets going both ways. In hockey, it's just one. That's all it takes. It took 15 minutes. Oleg Saprikin scores and Calgary takes a 3-2 series lead.
Yeah, you thought we were screwed, yeah.
But it's just that 15 minutes of overtime felt like it took 4 hours. And you
now
just
add another one and basically another one.
Yeah. And it's the quietest walk to the car. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like nobody talks in the entire building. Nobody talks. It's all a bunch of zombies walking to their car.
We'll see what these two teams have left in the tank in Game 2. I can't imagine that's going to be a crisply played game. That's a whole bunch of zombies on the ice there. Some deflections and some weird goals, and all guys not getting back, and just strange things are going to happen in the next game.
Florida's nuts. Did you hear what they said? It got funnier as the game went along. It just got funnier. That's like a crazy mindset. That's the right way to think about it.
It is. And then I watched Denver come back from down 14 against the Lakers, and it's Jamal Murray show in the 4th quarter with 23, and that was fun. See, I had to do all this at the damn Jamboree on my phone. My God almighty. This Jamboree never ends, Tom Lang.
How much did your boy play?
He didn't. He didn't play.
I could see why you call it the damn Jamboree now.
Well, his first ever spring football started 3 weeks ago. He's never played football. He just went out. They had a whole season in the fall. He was not on the team. He hadn't decided to play. So now you fast forward, you're getting immersed at wide receiver, and you don't know the plays. You've never even been in pads. So he had a very productive camp, and I won't get into too many details about his football. We'll see it as it plays out. I don't want to put undue expectations on him, but the coaches have been very pleased with him, but he doesn't know all the plays. And these games, these are, that's a live situation. You're not going to put – I didn't think he'd play. I told him that. I said, I don't think you're going to play. I don't think any of the freshmen that just got there in the spring are going to play, and they didn't. So that's fine. He's got seniors in front of him at wide receiver. That's fine. We'll see. But I think getting a taste of going through all that. I remember the first time I was ever in pads. Now, I played before I got to high school, but man, that in and of itself, adjusting to getting hit, adjusting to learning plays is one thing, but adjusting to getting popped and then knowing how to take that and deliver that and where you need to be, that's a very different thing.
Okay, so getting popped, one of the hallmarks we talked last hour about some of the great seasons in Florida State history, and it's about the ride. The reason I love that 2010 team was because once a game, minimum, somebody got destroyed.
Yeah, they'd hit you.
It could have been Kendall Smith, Greg Reed.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go on Terrence Parks, Nick Moody.
Nick Moody would hit you.
Nick Moody would come and hit you. Mike Harris had a couple that year.
Yeah.
It's just once a game, somebody ended you, and it was great. Mr. Alexander that year had a couple of them.
Also had the great name, one of the great names in collegiate football history.
He had Perry Jones at Virginia, and West Durham goes, that's why they call him Mr.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Who's the guy on this team that does that?
I think this is the problem with our linebacking core. There's none of them.
Jamie's gone to roughhouse a quarterback and dismiss him and just basically, end his masculinity for a day.
That was something to behold.
Yeah.
That's where Jarvis Brownlee was fun because he'd come up and hit you. He'd really hit you. That's where Shaheem Williams or
Brown.
No, the Williams kid that left, Sidney Williams.
Oh, Sidney Williams? Yeah.
I loved Sidney Williams. I really miss Sidney Williams. I wish he had not left. Sidney Williams was a bad loss for us. That's a player. He would be playing right now, and he'd be playing a lot. Damn it, Sidney, you blew it. You could have been here starting for Florida State this year and coming up and laying the wood with a great defensive line in front of you.
Yep.
That was a tough one. I asked Mike one time about how do you deal with these conversations, and every coach has to. And these days, coaches, this is another part of the job, is fielding that phone call or having that meeting, Tom, in which you've got a guy who you project 1 year from now, 2 years from now, is going to be a good football player. It's why you wanted him here. Or if you didn't recruit him, you assessed him pretty well and thought he deserved to play a lot. Williams did, by the way, play a lot. So you're looking at that kid going, he's going to help us. He's going to help us. And he's getting regular playing time, but he's not a starter. He's not the guy. He has to develop into that. And then all of a sudden he comes to you and he thinks he's further along than you think he is, but you value him greatly. And now he's saying to you, I want to start. It's not unlike a basketball player who gets 24 minutes a night, but he wants to play the whole game. And he thinks he should be out there as the guy. And you don't want to lose him because maybe he will become the guy, but he's not ready yet. And I can't promise you minutes. I will not do that as a coach. It has to come organically. We were having that conversation earlier, right? You got to build to a place. So what do you do with that kid? How do you talk to that kid? What do you say to that kid in the moment that he's now telling you, yeah, it's not really working for me? Listen, you're a great guy, coach. I like the staff. I like my teammates, but I feel like I'm a starter and a star somewhere else. And I've got people who want to talk to me, and I'm going to have those conversations. And now I've got to say something back to you that convinces you that I value you, commiserate to the way you value yourself, even though I'm not promising you what it is you want right now, which is a starter's role and the majority of the snaps at the position. I just think it's hard. And I think that's where you do, if you're going to continue to stick by your guns, you have to say to a kid, and I mapped this out before. We had this conversation one day on the air where I talked about the importance for coaches to connect with a player and speak of the plan. Speak of the plan that you have for them. You have to talk about it like it's a very real thing, because I promise you, if you value a player, a true freshman, a redshirt freshman, a true sophomore, whomever, right? You value what they're going to be, and they're helping you on special teams, and they get in the rotation, maybe the third guy in the rotation, so they're playing 12 snaps a game or something like that, and you think they can be stars, you better map out a plan. You better have a plan, because that kid's coming to you, and he wants to know what it is, and you better have answers. Most people, if they believe that they're superior, their bosses, the person that can make or break their futures financially, if we're talking about the job place, right, the workplace. If I come to you, Tom, and say, listen, I know right now you're having to do this, 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 and this for the company. Part of the reason I want you to do that is I think you can be the cornerstone of what we do in the future. And I need you to know all those things. I need you to know every aspect of that. Now, you're going to tell me you're exhausted and you want more money. And I'm working hard right now to get you that money, but I need you to take this step. And if I don't have that, if I just placate you or I tell you maybe what I think you want to hear, but you know it's not genuine, well, then you're going to get disgruntled and want to leave. Rightfully so. You're going to say, no, man, this ain't it. You're just dragging me along. I almost said something else. And I'm not going to stand for that. So Mike has, for the most part, I think, done a real good job. And he did tell me, he said, not every kid, no matter what you tell them, will understand the plan or have the patience, more importantly, for it. Some kids are just not going to say, okay, I can wait another 6 months. I can wait another year to fulfill the role that you see for me. I see it now and I want it now, and I need to capitalize on this opportunity that apparently another school, South Carolina or whomever, is offering me. And that's got to be the toughest thing in the world when that kid walks out of the room and you just lost a very viable player. I'm not saying that that's happened a lot here, but I think in the case of Sidney Williams, it did.
Well, that's also the relative value of a transfer versus a high school recruit. And that's where the math has changed a little bit. You have more leverage. And also, I think there's a more genuine connection all the way through. It's not to say that you're disingenuous when you're recruiting a high school kid. It's just if somebody comes to you as a transfer, they're buying into that long-term vision or whatever the vision is that you're laying before them. Because this coaching staff doesn't promise playing time to transfers. They don't. Now, you can, if you're Jermaine Johnson, look around the room and say, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
We all get it here, but nothing is promised. And that's one of the things that I like about Mike Norvell, at least to this point. I don't know if he has to make deals with the devil in order to get us to be a dynasty. I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't think he did with Keon Coleman, though. I think Keon Coleman fell in line. We had a long, drawn-out discussion about that a week ago. I think it was last Friday's show. Talking about, at least my contention about Keon Coleman was you can't reset your offensive roster's value for this guy who's a luxury. Does he take you to a different level or fortify the ranks? Absolutely. But you can't let him undo all of the things that you've done to build a consistent message and a culture and a way of doing things. He's going to have to fall in line, a lucrative line, but he's going to have to fall in line in order for this whole thing to work. And I think that happened. It's just so hard when you get there to maintain that vision. And that's why Saban is Saban. That's why Jimbo's Jimbo. And there's a difference between the two. Jimbo could get you there, but he read every book under the sun about how to stay there, and he never figured out how to do it. And what happened was, from the pinnacle of what we were, which was 29 straight, it was already starting to rot inside because the message was lost. The consistency was gone. And that's what Mike Norvell has to navigate. You're talking about late last hour. Can he be a great coach from a good coach? That's the step that you need to take. It's not necessarily about a championship this year. It's about, can you be consistent in the way you message from this point to wherever we're going, climbing even higher? Can you do it? And I think he can. He's laid the groundwork. I think he's done the hard part. But it's so easy to cut a corner once you arrive here if you're Florida State, because there are 5 stars that everybody wants. And if you just make a small promise to him along the way that he might say yes to you instead of Alabama or Ohio State, do you resist that temptation? And I hope we continue to do so, because I think we've got something unique here relative to the other halves in college football with the way that Coach Norvell messages to players and connects with players.
Before we round out this segment, I want to, and you brought it up, and good points, Tom. Carter Carrolls, is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
Who used to be here very briefly and is a nice guy. He now covers Texas A&M for Gig'em. And did you see what he tweeted?
No.
Well, it's a good one. And I think we'll all smile and take solace in this. I quote from his tweet: earlier tonight, Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher shared some encouraging news about his youngest son, Ethan.
Yeah.
And he went on to say that it looks like, and this is fantastic news, that his son might very well be able to be cured of Fanconi anemia. There are a lot of things that are going on right now. Obviously, we all know, bigger than football. And this is really neat. We've extended life expectancies over 17 years. More importantly, within the last week, I got a text from his doctor because of the research that we are the largest funder in the world because it's an orphan disease. They're talking about the Kids First Fund. He went on to say that they're talking about replacement therapies that can go in and fix things before you ever have to have bone marrow transplants. We're thinking we went from no cure 10 years ago that we could in 2 to 4 years possibly cure Fanconi anemia. That is the coolest thing. I'll never forget that press conference. We were both at it. It's breathtaking. I don't want to go too much more into that other than good to hear that good news. That's positive news. He also, Jimbo said, God bless to all of you who've donated and helped Kids First Fund. We really, obviously he was filled with gratitude. So
gene replacement therapy is what they think is going to be the breakthrough.
Correct.
And, never doubt that science can take you to a place. It has for so many diseases over time. There's still a few massive ones out there that, we don't have an answer for. And I think that's nature. It's always going to fight back. You don't deserve a victory parade for doing what human beings would do to take care of each other. Nobody, but Florida State fans that are out there that contributed to Kids First, smile today.
Oh yeah.
You helped make this happen. And
yeah, there's
let's hope that it actually comes to be. It's not done yet, but let's hope it comes to be. But you embraced that fund in such a huge way. And if you'd forgotten about that, it's been 5 years, just smile because you helped make something like this happen and change people's lives. That's way bigger than anything about was Jimbo this or was Jimbo that.
Correct.
Good job to you all out there.
Yeah, no, I put a huge smile on my face when I read his story and saw that tweet. I've had many conversations with Coach Fisher about this, and it just warmed my heart. That was a really good thing, and it's a great thing to be able to report on a Friday. And so it's smiles indeed. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV
has been protecting homes and businesses for thousands of people right here in the Big Bend, and we're quite proud of that. Fact is, all of us here at Paul's have families, and nothing is more important to us than their protection. By providing effective termite and pest treatments, we know we're aiding many right here in our community.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control performs many services designed for the protection of your family and your home. Programs like Pro Shield Complete, which encompasses termite and general pest control in one low-cost quarterly treatment plan. This program is environmentally friendly and is almost exclusively limited to exterior treatments, meaning pests and termites never enter your home. Termite programs like Centricon, a service which requires no invasive drilling or liquid applications. Plus, our lawn care team keeps lawns and ornamentals green and healthy.
Protection of your family, your home, and our environment all are very important to each of us at Paul's. To learn more about our many programs, please visit us at callpauls.com.
For the elimination of termites or any other pests.
And the greener lawn, too.
Call Paul's. We'll get them all.
Barry knows cool, he's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool, you can put him to the test.
This is Tyler from Bear No Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere.
Save big time in the new year and get $1,200 off select new units.
Online at baranoac.com.
Keeping you comfortable is what Barry does best.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Discover the taste of Peru at Café de Martín and El Bar, a one-of-a-kind culinary and cocktail concept created by classically trained chef Martín Araujo. Con amor y pasión, with love and passion, Café de Martín is a fine Peruvian dining experience in an approachable, comfortable, cultural-rich space built for creating memories to last a lifetime. Enjoy happy hour daily with a full bar, handcrafted cocktails, beers on draft and bottle, paired with a selection of Peruvian tapas like crispy fried yuca with house-made huancaína sauce, carefully selected charcuterie boards, a selection of fresh ceviches, and so much more. It's Café de Martín and El Bar. Escape to Peru, a country of great culture, beauty, and food right here in the capital city. Café de Martín and El Bar on Capitol Circle Northeast in the Esposito Shopping Center. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Online at cafedemartin.com.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Yeah, hey, it's the Millers again. I'm just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to tread water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us. We're fine.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mandlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, Libations Friday rolling on. I want to look at a few things that were written by our friend of the program, David Hale, ESPN.com college football writer. Good at what he does, thorough, hard worker, connected throughout the ACC as well as anybody. I respect him. Don't always agree with him. That's fine. He is also a lover of very good music and fine wine as well as delicious scotch. So he's always going to be welcome in here to the Jeff Cameron Show. But let's go ahead and look at his article from today. It is with he and Andrea Adelson. They often partner together. And actually, that article was written in March, the original one, but he's kind of gone further, if you look at his Twitter account, and talked about indulging the idea, looking at other options, what the ACC did, noting that the ACC has real value to ESPN, that it doesn't want to, lose to Fox or the Big Ten, have to pay tons more for a new SEC agreement in a few years, devalue a network it's 50-50 partners on. But even if ESPN opened the coffers, the ACC wouldn't get close to SEC money. He talked about the Magnificent Seven dissolves the league. That name is made up joke by McMurphy. No AD has been calling it that. There have been lots of side conversations amongst the schools. He's noting that on his Twitter account. The seven mentioned have talked, so have smaller groups, so have the schools outside the seven. And yeah, they all had the same problem. We've got problems. The money's not right here. Then he goes through and talks about the option to leave. Do you fight the grant of rights in court? Quote, untimely. I think this is the only remotely likely outcome, and nobody is eager to do it right now. It will be an option of last resort that will be ugly, costly, and lengthy. See Texas and Oklahoma spending $100 million to leave 1 year early. I've talked to a few folks with firsthand knowledge who feel they could put together a compelling legal case, but if they thought it was an easy winner, it would have already happened. And to leave without legal release from the grant of rights would be impossible for an ACC team. And then he finally talked about the exit fee, talked a little bit about, Phillips has said, the commissioner has said there's no magic bullet. The revenue issue may be overcome by a combination of moves. And that's where I want to step in and give you my own opinion here. There is not going to be a combination of moves that make up for $30 million and much more than that in future earnings. There's no piecemeal deal. There is nothing that I see that I have talked to people about or those that understand the behind-the-scenes situation with the network, ESPN, that suggests there is any maneuvering of revenues, whether it's unbalanced or whatever it might be, no agreement that could happen that long-term is going to solve the plight that Florida State, Clemson, and others find themselves in this league. Only leaving is going to work. This is, to me, there is no other conversation to have.
Yep.
Only leaving this conference and finding a way out of this conference will allow for Florida State to compete long-term with those they seek to compete against who play big boy football, namely the footprint of the SEC and a couple of other schools in this conference, Clemson being one of them. That's it. That's all. There's nothing else that can be done. Even if you were to, I don't know, have uneven distribution, there could be a model for, or a reward model for going to the postseason or whatever you want to do. We're talking about chump change as it pertains. You might say, well, millions aren't chump change. They are.
Yep.
3 million, 4 million, 5 million, put it at 8 million. It's chump change compared to what you're going up against with the SEC and the Big Ten per institution. You're getting outclassed in a way that gives you zero chance to compete. They've got to leave. That's all there is. They've got to leave. And we're all just biding time. I get it. Publicly, say whatever you want to say. Talk nicely about the commissioner and all the other ADs, whether you get along with them, agree with them or not. It doesn't really matter. That's fine. It's a bad look. It's crass to be out publicly arguing with other athletic directors and the commissioner. Fine, don't do that because it's a foregone conclusion. We already know it. You've already told us, and you were right. You were right. We already knew it too. I was just glad we finally had an athletic director that was willing to put his name on it. And just continue the course. Stay the course.
It was known in 2012 that this is a garbage setup, but in 2012, it's where are you going? Now you know where you can go. You know where you can go. We all know where you can go, and that's the power two. And the suggestion in that thread of tweets or whatever it was that it's impossible to leave is false. It is very possible to leave. They could leave today, but you have to minimize the liability. You've got to minimize the liability as much as possible. That's the delay. It's not impossible to leave. It's not impossible to pay the sum necessary to settle the grant of rights issue. You could do that, but it's a lot of money. How can you get that number down? It's all a long-term negotiation of what we're going through right now. It's a negotiation to a settlement. And maybe you don't have to settle it all. That's the other carrot that's out there. If you can get enough of these programs together, as Ira said yesterday, as he understands it, 8 is enough. 8 is enough to disband this whole damn thing. Maybe you still have to pay the exit fee. I don't even know if you would need to do that at that point. But $120 million is nothing right now in terms of getting free and clear from the ACC. It is not impossible to leave. Another sentence I saw in an article that they co-penned this week, and I understand why a sentence is phrased this way, because it implies that David and Andrea, who are excellent journalists, have not verified this on their own. But the sentence read that Alford had suggested that Florida State's brand value is the highest in the ACC or far outweighs the ACC competition. That is a fact. That is not a suggestion. You know how I know that Florida State's brand value is as big as any team in the Power Five, not named maybe Alabama or Ohio State? Because they want to enforce the grant of rights on Florida State. If they thought we were worthless, they just let us pay the $120 million and go our merry way. But they know that we are the driver of the bus from a television standpoint, from a branding standpoint, whether we win or we lose. And that's the thing that these other schools in the ACC are in a straitjacket about that makes me laugh, but also makes me angry. You want to take pot shots at our dysfunction? Sure. But how sorry are you as institutions that Florida State has been down for 5 years and none of you have taken the mantle of reputable brand that people can't wait to watch on a Saturday? I just can't stand that disingenuousness. Now, to David's end, the only thing I disagree with there, he documented a lot of these things perfectly, but it's not impossible to leave. It's just costly. I thought Ira said that perfectly yesterday.
He believes that basically, and he laid out options of what would happen. He gave options 1 through 4, and he thought that the 1 through 4 had 0% chance of happening. And he went back through these different options and talked about, what they are. Well, option 5 was the one that he ended up thinking was the most likely to occur. And I'll quote from option 5 in this long tweet thread, and I give David credit. He was certainly citing his old article that he did with Andrea from March, and then said, here are the updates based on what we just gathered and reported on the spring meetings. And he created the thread. He's very good at doing these things. Option 5, fight the grant of rights in court. Ultimately, I think this is the only remotely likely outcome. Nobody's eager to do it. It will be an option of last resort. It will be ugly, costly, and lengthy. I tend to think that's correct. I also think that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
And now the question becomes, how soon? How soon are we headed there? Now, it's interesting because it's no slam dunk. If you're an FSU supporter, alumnus, booster, fan, whatever, what you have to hope for is something that cannot be verified. You have to hope that you know where you're going, that you know you are ending up in the SEC or the Big Ten. Because if you do know it, then the lawsuit becomes very possible and we're going to move sooner rather than later. If you do not know that, if it's presumed that there's an offer waiting on you the second you declare independence and take it to court and scream and fight, then it may be a little bit longer. It's a little bit more disconcerting. There are lots of schools who obviously expansion and realignment and all that other stuff has not worked out for. He has correctly pointed out it didn't work out for a lot of schools. I'll give you one that I've done some work with, Nebraska. It has not worked out for Nebraska at all. Now, they've made a ton of money, but they are now largely irrelevant. And it is interesting to think about that. Yeah, it's not a cure-all for teams to leave one league to go to another. It is, however, entirely necessary to take your chance of ever mattering again, competing, because we know one thing: you stay here, you never will. You will never matter again. And every year that goes by, you'll matter less if you stay in the ACC.
Yeah, I think you can still matter in the ACC from a football standpoint, but it's goodbye to the rest of the sports. And I prefer the athletic department to be robust everywhere. It's been a big part of our tradition, and I think it needs to remain a big part of our tradition. I think you could still deploy all of your assets into football and field, because we're in a recruiting fertile part of the country. You could still field a competitive product.
Now we get into nuance here, Tom. I'm not saying they wouldn't be competitive. Like, they're not going to be out here going 3-9.
Right.
But you're not winning a damn thing.
You could still make the playoff, but you're not winning a championship. I think that would be the ceiling at that point, because it's a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
It'll expand to 16 and so forth, and you'll make it. But it's not the same deal. And was that a bit of advice from David to say that the cautionary tale, or is that just you talking about?
No, he's just noting that, look, it hasn't exactly worked out for everybody that decided to jump shit in their yeah.
You're going to give me the grass is always greener argument for Florida freaking State? Stop. We have been able to outperform the amount of money that we have from an athletic department standpoint and a booster standpoint for decades. We won't be able to anymore. This is where I agree with you. You need, and look out for us if we can operate on equal footing. We don't. This university is not in the middle of nowhere. That's Nebraska's problem. If Nebraska, with all its tradition, was in Central Florida, they'd still be a juggernaut. Yeah. But they're not. We are where we are. That is our advantage. We're lucky in that regard, that the population is still migrating even more towards where we live.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Drive I-10 and I-75 and tell me how excited you are about how many people have migrated to Florida.
But that's more talented athletic genes.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Don't give me the cautionary. What is this? Maybe it's not in your best interest. Come on, David.
Well, he doesn't say that. He's just pointing out it's not a cure-all for everybody that's done it. He brings up Missouri and Maryland, and in those cases, sure, those teams don't matter. They never really have,
because they were kicking ass before they left their previous conference. Get out of here. Come on.
I just think that we do a lot of beating around the bush here. Is it more complicated of an issue than to just say we need to leave? Of course. I'm not going to get buried in the minutia or the legal documents or the angles that you can attack the grant of rights from. It's not an area of expertise. You can have a general knowledge that something is possible or exists without being an expert.
Yep.
I fall in that category. It's a little bit like we all have an opinion about movies or food when we go out to eat. I think that, and I'm not a director nor a chef. I think it's entirely possible that Florida State has a means by which to leave. I also eventually, and it may be incredibly complicated. Sure. I'll give you that. The problem is, I think it's the only option. Staying here is not an option. This is what we know will happen. All of the other sports will get rated. Their coaches, if good, will be picked apart by Big Ten and SEC schools. You'll have less money to fund those programs because you're going to have to give it all to football to remain relevant in any way, shape, or form. So you'll be a singular entity in the sports world that diminishes your overall university's profile. It becomes a less desirable place for lots of people to go to school. And I would also tell you that I think long-term you're screwed because you wouldn't be able to keep up where it really matters, and that is NIL, money for players, money for coaches, money for facilities. You're not going to win. You cannot. He said it in the Board of Trustees meeting because he meant it. And he was right. There's no need to back off that statement or to backtrack or acquiesce. Just stick by what you know to be true. If the money is going to stay anywhere close to where it is now, and I think $5 million more for Florida State or Clemson is chump change. That is not real money when we're talking about $30 and $40 and $50 million annually. You're going to fall behind against those you seek to compete against. You were right. Stick to it. You can't stay here. You can't. Now, we can spend all day, and I actually think it's a fun exercise to bring in an attorney, to bring in a former athletic director, a commissioner, to bring in people who have inside information, to sit down at a table with lots of people, coaches, former players, journalists, athletic directors, you name it. That's a fun exercise because everybody brings something to the table, and a point of view, and it's an educated one. Maybe it's an isolated point of view. Maybe it's within the realm of one aspect of the larger conversation, but it's all part of the bigger conversation. It's a fun exercise.
Yeah, I think to advance it, I agree with you. It's simple. And the only way to move ahead is to move out of this current situation, and that's it. It's plain and simple. The only thing I'd say is everybody cares about liability. What are they liable for? That's the reason we haven't done the move already, is because we want to be liable for the least amount of money possible. So that's critical to our interest is, can we leave this conference for $120 million and $120 million alone? Could we leave it for $0? Do we have to go to litigation and come to a number like $500 million to settle before they even come to the judgment? And we're working and negotiating while this legal proceeding is going on. That's also expensive on the side. But we're going to come to a one-time fee, $550 million, and then you're done. Like, these are the options that are before you. But what about the destination? What are they liable for? Because we all know that in the NFL, for example, Tom Brady cost the Miami Dolphins a high draft pick because of tampering. And I would wonder about the liability about the destination, the liability of the destination, be it the Big Ten, the SEC, a third conference that's built out of, the remaining body parts. It's a Frankenstein's monster conference from something else. That destination doesn't want to be liable for jack squat. So could there be something that Florida State does that assures that whatever the settlement is with the grant of rights is on Florida State and Florida State alone? Could you legally facilitate that in order to open a door for an earlier invite? It's just too messy right now. You've got to clean it up for the destination for us to leave as well. That's, I think, the invite part of the process is, how do you clean up that part so that the invite could be standing and official and real while you still have to litigate the ACC issue?
If it's good, and it can be real, Tom. Well, this is where you really have to have master negotiators and men who get things done.
Women.
What'd you say?
And women.
Oh, and yeah. Just our athletic director is currently a man. So the point is, you've got to get things done. There are people who have, Sankey has gotten things done. Mm-hmm. There's an example. He has gotten things done. We can hate him. We can tell you that he's all that's wrong with college football, and it's largely in part the ruination of college football as we know it. It doesn't matter that that's true. They keep expanding, they keep getting bigger, and they keep getting more money. He's done what he's needed to do, and he's killed everybody in his way. Ruthlessly. He has not cared one iota for your feelings.
Please, Burke Mangus. Please, Jimmy. Please, you're our business partners. Don't do this.
So that's where we're at. You have to be as ruthless. It has to be omnipresent on your mind when you wake up in the morning. What am I doing today to get a step closer of getting Florida State out of this conference? Mm-hmm. When you go to bed at night, what did I do today to further move towards an exit from this conference? It's a little bit like weight loss or whatever change you're trying to make in your life. Did I do anything today that aided my endeavor? Yeah. Was there anything tangible that I did today to help further and expedite Florida State's exit of this conference?
Yeah, can we take Mike's theme and just apply it to this situation and
1%?
No, just climb, but it's climb out. So you climb out.
Climb out the window.
We propagated for our purposes. Climb out.
It could be a picture of a man dressed as FSU squeezing through Alcatraz's bars. The ocean is the college football landscape. The dry land is the SEC. And there you see Florida State. Yeah, it could be Tim Robbins. Hands in the air.
Oh, well, I was thinking, I can't put this photo up. It's low humor, but Ace Ventura, when nature calls, when he's in the fake rhino and he's trying to come out of the rhino. And the family's on the safari and they're
oh my God,
they're puking because a man's coming out of a rhino.
Let's come back and do probables and rapid fires. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. And that is the end of the week, end of the show for all of you on the live stream, you YouTubers. You guys have a great weekend. Have a relaxing couple of days and join us right back here on Monday. Peace out, everybody. Be good.